Wow, it's been a while. Hey everyone, what's going on? It's Akina here, back with another Rise of Kingdoms video. Apologies for my prolonged absence. I've still been playing Rock, still leading in 1606. I also now have an account in 2377. So yeah, hopefully I can be making more videos more consistently now. I know it's been a running joke about when my next video is going to be, at least in my kingdom. Well, now it's finally time. And what better way to come back to YouTube than the brand new Cav Rally Commander, Subutai? Now I know there was a running joke that this guy was going to be Khan Prime, and to be honest, he doesn't look too dissimilar from him. Um, but no, it's Sword of the Khan Subutai as our new Cav Rally Commander. But Subutai, he's a Cav conquering and combo commander, the very first in the game, the first combo rally lead. So it's really exciting to see what he can do and also to see the test results that he's actually producing, because I've seen a few tests floating around. I spent the majority of the day actually using the simulator uh, that Specco created. Apologies if I pronounced that incorrectly. Um, I'll link his Patreon down below if anyone wants to support him, so uh, they could also get access to the simulator. But the two questions we want to look at are, what is Subutai's best pair? And which garrison can actually stop it? Because when you see the results, they're pretty significant in favour of Subutai and his ideal pair. But he can be stopped, at least for now. So let's dive into this and start with the first question. So what is his best pair? So when you realise that combo skills are boosted by normal attack damage as well as combo damage, that limits the total number of cavalry commanders down to, yeah, about 3. We have Arthur when he is primary, we have Attila, and we have Takeda. All 3 of those specialize in normal attack damage. Regarding the setup for testing, each test was repeated 3 times and it lasted for approximately 3 minutes, and each of these rallies were reinforced. The gear set was the best you could possibly get for each respective troop type, and all of it was special talented. No accessories were used to try and reduce RNG as much as possible, although that is something we will be covering later on in the video. No iconic levels, no iconic stats were used. All armaments had all 4 special inscriptions, but no stats. And then Season of Conquest was chosen, so it had the 40% damage included. Now, just a note about these tests. These stats are by no means a guarantee for in-game performance when Subutai comes out. There could be slight coding errors, there could be discrepancies between in-game and the results that the simulator has produced. But for the purpose of this video and for early testing while he's currently not available, this gives a pretty decent indication on how influential he'll be as a rally commander. To start things off, I decided to take Eleanor and Hera and put them against every possible pair I could think of for Subutai that had at least somewhat potential or some rally synergy. So if they were a rally commander, it's more than likely I used them, or at least tried to use them, against Eleanor Hera. No real reason I chose Eleanor Hera, just a base common Garrison commander. I guess you could say this is probably optimal Osiris League testing, considering she's the ideal Garrison choice right now. But when doing this testing, I really focused on trying to find not just the best pair, but the best formation for the best pair. So often I would have to do, let's say, Subutai Justinian, and then run it as both wedge, and then run it as delta 3 times each. Then swap it over, so Justinian is primary, he gets the support tree, 3 times wedge, 3 times as delta. This was done to try and see if there is a real significant difference between the armament types that you use. And there was. So in terms of the top 3 performing Subutai pairings against Eleanor Hera, they were, in first place, was Attila. Yes, is going to be back as primary to Subutai. That was the best performing pair, and that was using the delta formation. Next up are two infantry pairings. So this requires the artifact. Most KVKs now do have the artifacts, so it's becoming more and more common to have to cross invest into different lead commanders for infantry, cav, and archer to truly maximize the best rally and garrison you can have. So Liuche as secondary, and then Scipio 2. I'm not going to try and pronounce his surname because that's not going to go well. But you may also notice when I show you the lists on the following page, this is a pure cavalry rally list. So it's including artifacts, only if you can run it with cav. So putting Scipio as primary wasn't an option because that's only infantry. In a future video, I can look at that. If you're interested, just let me know in the comments. But for now, this is the results that I got. So as you can see, there's a lot of data on your screen right now. And at the very top, you can see Attila Subutai is number 1. I used Byzantium and I used Wedge formation for Eleanor Hera for all of the garrisons, and I used Arabia for all of the rallies because it's the strongest rally type, or rally, it's the strongest rally civilization. You can see Delta, Arch, Wedge, all these formations were used and tested for all of these commanders to see which produced the most optimal results. And I know there's still a lot of RNG involved in this, but that's why the average was taken from the 3 tests to try and minimize that as much as possible. So as you can see, Attila and Subutai in Delta is the best, but if you go down to 3rd place, Attila Subutai with Arch is there. It's about a 25% roughly difference in the average report in favor of Delta over Arch. So I know many actually had questions whether Subutai or combo commanders can run Arch because it boosts normal attack damage. Well, from testing it feels like Delta does have quite a significant boost to the overall performance of that commander versus Arch. Regarding pure cav rallies, Justinian and Subutai were the next highest on the list using Delta. Then followed by that, it was them again, this time using Wedge. And then after that, finally we get to other pairings. So there's Subutai Attila, Subutai Nevsky, and then Bert Subutai. Now, many people I saw were chatting about Bert and his active skill. The cooldown does ruin that a little bit, but there was huge potential synergy in that active skill and Subutai's combo attacks. However, Bert's kit in general is fine. It's not exceptional. There's a reason why he was never really meta when he came out. So this is the list. You can see at the very bottom, Subutai Arthur performed awfully with Arch, probably to no one's surprise. A lot of Arthur's kit isn't working as a rally, and Arthur's skill damage when he's secondary, so it doesn't benefit him really at all. And Subutai, I mean, it's fine, but we know Delta is better. Knowing that Attila Subutai is the pair that has performed the best, and I know this is only comparing it against Eleanor Hera, let's see how this pair does against other garrison pairings. So here we have Gorgo, Cho, and Constantine. How influential will these 3 be when it comes to the final list, comparing all garrison commanders and whether they can actually stop Attila Subutai? Let us start off with 2 of the most commonly used garrisons, and they both involve Hera. Now, Gorgo Hera is significantly more used than Cho Hera. Both of them have the benefit of being able to use mixed troops, hence why they are preferred. So how do we think they do, considering Gorgo generally smashes any cav rally? The numbers are taken from the rally perspective, so we can see that Attila Subutai is trading positive against the Gorgo, which, I mean, at last the cavalry commander can rally into Gorgo properly. But we've also got to take into consideration that 25% of a report when you're rallying into a garrison, 25% of the garrison will be sevs rather than deads. So if you think that's only 11% positive, we could say that Gorgo Hera is probably still going to be out trading the Attila Subutai, at least for now. But when we take a look later at a few other factors, we'll see why Attila Subutai will probably outtrade the Gorgo Hera. At the bottom, you can see Cho Hera gets shredded, 156% in favour of Attila. Just don't use archers when you're garrisoning this pair. That's the common theme here. Don't think about it. It has to be infantry. You're gonna do poorly. Moving on to Attila v Attila. So Gorgo gave further life to Attila when she was released in the form of the artifact. And many of you will recall the infamous KVK with 2605 and 960 when this became widely known as the strongest garrison pair in the game at the time. There really weren't many counters to it, with huge skill damage reduction and crazy anti-swarm. So how does it do against the brand new meta rally? And we can see both when using cav and both when using infantry, Attila Subutai is out-trading it pretty clearly. 122% for Gorgo as primary, and then 129% with Attila as primary. So is the rise of Attila again as a rally lead pushed back Attila as a garrison lead? This guy just doesn't die. He's actually immortal. Probably the best investment in the history of Rock, to be honest. Pure infantry garrisons now. 2 of these are some of the oldest commanders in the game, and one you probably wouldn't expect to see in a garrison. But let's see how they did. So let's start with Gorgo Constantine. As you can see, only 105% for the rally. So although it's trading positive, it's not by much and probably going to get out-traded by Deads. One of the old great counters to Attila has returned to do the same. Not to the same degree, but a great pairing nonetheless if you can keep your garrison full infantry. Unfortunately, not even a third museum buff can help Gorgo Martel beat Attila 1v1 with Subutai. Although the pairing will have incredible anti-swarm, when the rally is left to just hit the garrison, Martel is not who you want behind Gorgo. And surprisingly, William Wallace behind Gorgo, pure smite damage with perfect arch armaments and inscriptions. This pairing does beat Attila Subutai. Why? The pure punch that this garrison march has. When you think that Wallace is increasing all smite damage over 1,000, albeit 80% chance, by 40% damage, that's huge damage coming towards Attila Subutai. And although Attila has significant skill damage reduction, he doesn't have quite as high normal attack damage reduction, hence why this is probably outperforming him. But if it's being swarmed, it's probably going to get slaughtered. So maybe for a pass, it can work in a 1v1. If it's getting double rallied, it will probably get battered as well. So very situational this march, similar to Gorgo Luce. But what is the number one counter to Attila Subutai, at least from early testing? Maybe not to the surprise of some, but Gorgo Cho is the best counter to Attila Subutai. You may have seen reports of this garrison in recent KVKs with artifacts. It is very strong. One of the toughest, if not the toughest current garrison to bring down. And probably is no surprise why it's also able to beat Attila Subutai in a 1v1. So when we take a look at how all of the garrison commanders compare against one another, you can see that a variety of different civilizations were used, different formations from circle to arch to wedge. I know for infantry, some prefer using Greece, some prefer using Vikings due to the counterattack. So personal preference, the difference in testing wasn't that significant. Only 3 marches were able to actually beat and out-trade an Attila Subutai rally. Gorgo Cho with circle formation was the best. Gorgo Cho with arch formation was second. And then Gorgo Wallace with arch was third. There are a number of good infantry pairings that work well enough when facing Attila Subutai. Gorgo Liu, Gorgo Constantine, Gorgo Hera. Gorgo Hera can still be used and will perform well, at least considering the fact it's mixed troops. When thinking about Ark of Osiris, Osiris League, will the meta shift now as a result of Attila Subutai being so strong? Yeah, I think it will. I think every single lane is going to start using Attila Subutai as the main rally, as long as they can get good inscriptions, and in particular butterfly effects, which we're going to go on to in just a moment, but that inscription is just game changing. Eleanor Hera gets pretty battered, in all honesty, by this rally. Will also Cav rallies being meta again in Arc force a change in the Garrison to not make lanes too Cav heavy, potentially. But for KVK, for sure, expect to see this rally coming your way. And in typical Attila fashion, swarming it is going to hurt. Subutai does add some extra normal attack damage to Attila as well, so it's going to be rough to try and swarm this rally. Perhaps the swap from Arch to Delta for many rally leads, for many Cav rally leads, will reduce the swarm damage that Attila will be dealing, but it still will hurt regardless. At the bottom, you can see the Archer Garrisons and, of course, Hera YSS. But yeah, that's the data. Let me know what you think about this in the comment section below. Do you think Attila Subutai will be as strong as these tests are saying? Or do you think that they're overinflating how strong this rally will be, and in-game, it won't be quite as good? But a little note about these results and the influence of this one inscription that, as far as I can recall, I haven't seen an inscription this powerful, I guess, since armaments have come out. 3.5% boost to combo attack damage dealt. That's nice, not game changing. But it's the second part. Combo attacks launched by their troops are 20% more likely to trigger effects triggered by launching a basic attack. Now, why is this such a big deal? Well, you need to think that combo is an extra basic attack in the same turn, and there are a number of skills and abilities that are very dependent on doing basic attacks and there being a percentage chance of something proccing as a result of each basic attack. So these three in particular, this also includes other accessories such as the Horn of Fury, which procs based on each potential basic attack. But when you think that none of these tests involved any accessories, so the percentage chance of the Ring of Doom proccing, of the Horn of Fury proccing, wasn't increased due to the butterfly effect. Then you also add in the tier 5 gear and the abilities that they have. And this is why combo can be so powerful. You have all of these percentage chance procs, a 20% greater chance of proccing from a combo attack. And you have Subutai dealing at least 3 every skill cycle, plus his third skill, which also has another chance of dealing 1, even though it has quite a large cooldown. And bear in mind, this can also stack with Attila's skills. So Attila's got that 4th skill, which is a 25% chance of dealing an extra 50 or 100% damage. Now imagine if all of these go off at the same time. You have your ring, you have Divine Might, you have Furious Strike, you have Attila's 4th skill. You also have the normal damage boost that Subutai is getting from his 4th skill. Also, Attila in his active skill has attack reduction based on basic attacks, as well as a defense reduction skill. These just all spiral and combine with one another, and it's no surprise why this rally is so strong, at least from testing. In my opinion, I think that this rally will be dominant. There won't be many garrisons that can really stand up to it, especially a fully optimized Delta march. So 4 special inscriptions, all T5 gear. I think it will be very difficult to stop that rally. And I think the test results, I think they're being a bit generous to the garrisons. A number of those rallies that traded close, Gorgo Hera in particular, I think it will only be trading negative when the butterfly effects gets going. So yeah, that's what the testing showed. That's a little bit of insight into my thoughts on the rally. If you're interested in a further deep dive into why Attila Subutai works so well, let me know. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to leave a comment and I'll make sure to get back to you. Thank you very much for watching. Catch you all later.